On July 12th, reports came out that NVIDIA may be already discontinuing production of the RTX Turing series. And while this may surprise some, with video cards even saying that they cannot verify the September 17th release date they were told, I would remind everyone that I've been talking to sources with access to GA102 samples for months, and they told me 3 months ago that September was the launch date. In fact, since then, more leaks have come out confirming things like higher clock speeds, 12 gigabytes of blazing fast GDR6, and I'm becoming pretty confident that my sources are valid. But even if they are valid, it's worth pointing out that it was always up in the air what that September date exactly meant. Was it a early reveal? Was it a paper launch? Or was it a hard launch? Well, now that we know that Turing is starting to be discontinued, and based on what I read, I think these reports are true. I think NVIDIA is ceasing production of at least the top Turing cards right now. Well, I think we should take a walk down memory lane and see how close the discontinuation of a previous series lines up with when the new one comes out. And the first series I'm going to look at is actually NVIDIA Maxwell in 2014. NVIDIA somewhat surprised announced the discontinuation of Kepler right when the 970 and 980 came out. And it's really no surprise why they wanted people to not know it was discontinued right away, right? They wanted people to keep buying the 780 Ti right up until it was revealed that the half-priced, half-power usage 970 was matching the 780 Ti's performance. So yeah, that is right when the new series came out. The last series was discontinued. And then Maxwell was discontinued on April 17th of 2016. And 1 month later, well, the 1080 came out. And a couple quarters later, the 1080 Ti came out. And then, in late 2018, the 2080 Ti came out. And, it actually was 2 months later that it was reported that the 1080 Ti had been discontinued. Although NVIDIA didn't really announce it. Stock just dried up and, well, Gamers Nexus put together a report that it's clear they had halted production. And yeah, I mean, everyone bought the 1080 Ti instead of the usually more expensive 2080 because, well, frankly, it was the same performance for less, and ray tracing was just, well, it was in beta form at that stage. So either way, let's look at what's going on here. Discontinued at launch. Here we have discontinued a month before launch. And here we have, well, we don't really know when the 1080 Ti was technically discontinued, but it was probably right around Turing's launch. So there's no way around it. At least historically, when NVIDIA halts production of one series, that means the next one is right around the corner. And I already have reports that September was some sort of reveal or launch date anyways. And so, yeah, I think September won't just be a reveal. I think that's Ampere's actual launch. And actually, we're also getting reports that the GA106, 3060, and 3050 are already in production at Samsung on their 8nm process. And while the 8nm process at Samsung may confuse some, I have actually long speculated that this move could make a ton of sense for NVIDIA. Ever since I saw that Samsung's marketed as 8nm node, really a more refined version of their 10nm node, was honestly just 10% less dense than TSMC's 7nm, and yet had far less competition for capacity and was supposedly being sold dirt cheap. It made so much sense. NVIDIA doesn't make, a few million cards a year. They have so many customers that have orders that need filled, and so Samsung would make a ton of sense. I speculated that compared to any previous generation in recent memory, Samsung would be the fab NVIDIA goes to for more of their lineup than ever before, but that they would admittedly still probably go to TSMC for the top cards. And honestly, that assumption is starting to look like it may end up being wrong, that NVIDIA really will just use Samsung for its 2020 Ampere lineup. Now, I say 2020 because I still have to believe that they're planning a 7nm or even 7nm EUV follow-up of one of those top dies in Q1 to make sure they have a strong performance lead over AMD soon. But I don't know. If we simply remember these verified reports that Nvidia's plan to bid TSMC against Samsung massively backfired on them, maybe we have to just admit to ourselves that they want to keep the Q3 launch date and that they're just going to move forward with as powerful a card as they can make on only Samsung for now and then get to TSMC as soon as possible for follow-ups if they need it. And seeing Turing be discontinued tells me, yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. We could be seeing Ampere cards, as recently reported from other leaks, 40 to 60% stronger than a 2080 Ti on just Samsung 8 nanometer if it's pushed that hard. And actually, let's take a look at one of those recent leaks for a second. All right, I'm actually going to use Rogame's leak on hardware leaks. His track record is pretty great, and he's pretty easy to converse with over his information too, without lashing out on other people. Anyways, though, he confirms directly actually in this article that the rumors of 10, 12, and 24 gigabytes based on his info is correct. So that's good. That's what everyone else is saying, including me. And then we go over here and see 3080, and then of course a 3080 Ti, presumably, and some 3090 or Titan, depending on what they call it. But again, the name doesn't really matter. Anyways, the juicy information. This first benchmark of some top Ampere card, presumably because it beats a 2080 Ti Founders Edition by 31%. And remember, some versions of the 2080 Ti are clocked lower than the Founders Edition. So this is a pretty fair estimate of the type of performance we are looking at. And I'm just going to be honest. When I look at this, the clock speeds, and the performance, I have to say, I'm a bit torn, but I think this is a underclocked 3080 Ti. Not monstrously underclocked, but underclocked nonetheless. I think that the 3080 Ti will be about 10 to 20% better than this, and that there will be something even slightly better than that, the 3090 or Titan. And I believe that the 3080 is going to be 10 to 15% worse than this. But the point really comes down to this then. We have our estimates. I mean, even if what we just looked at is what the 3080 Ti will perform at, it's logical to think that the 3080 will be, 20% weaker since it's based on the same die. That still places it 10% better or more, probably 15% better at least, than the 2080 Ti, and at $800. And with reports coming out that the 3070 Ti will have about, let's say, 30% less performance than that, be top GA 104, not cut down with GDR6X, I placed the 3070 Ti, which will probably be about $600, at 10% weaker than a 2080 Ti. And that's the point. Close to a 2080 Ti, better ray tracing for half the price of the 2080 Ti right now. But no matter what you think about my analysis of the performance tiers of Ampere, all evidence points to it coming out very soon. Honestly, again, a somewhat real launch in September. And that brings me to the second half of this video. A lot of people have been asking me in reader mail, which you can submit if you're a patron, if they should sell their Turing cards right now, with some people saying that they can get $1,100 if they sell their 2080 Ti on eBay. And honestly, at first, I had a hard time believing that's how much people would pay for a used 11 gigabyte card in 2020, but it's not that far off. So yeah, I'd say you should be able to get at least around $1,000 for a 2080 Ti, if not slightly less. And so if you can get $1,000 for your 2080 Ti now, should you sell it? Well, let me put it to you this way. I already said earlier in this video that I think the 3070 Ti, if the reports are correct, and I have no reason to believe they won't be, let's say within 10% of a 2080 Ti's performance, that 3070 Ti isn't going to be $1,000, guys. That's probably going to be $600, I don't know, maybe $650. And if that's the case, it's up to you. I don't know what your needs are now. I don't know how active you are gaming right now versus how active you will be this fall, if you'll want to wait. But the fact of the matter is you'll probably be able to get an Ampere graphics card with the same performance as that 2080 Ti for, well, $400 less than you're going to get for that 2080 Ti right now. And with reports from within Nvidia telling me that Turing is going to age like Kepler, I would definitely sell it pretty soon. I would. That's what I would do. I mean, you're probably going to be able to get a new monitor and an equal or better graphics card later this year for the price of what you'll get selling that 2080 Ti right now. I mean, maybe even more if AMD forces Nvidia to make their prices more reasonable. And actually, on that note, I do want to touch on how good RDNA 2 will be just for a second. And actually, at first, that analysis was going to be reverse engineering the math of how 36 RDNA 2 CUs relates to 58 PS4 CUs, and then trying to make some estimate of what the IPC increase will be of RDNA 2 over RDNA 1, and then relating that to an estimated 64 to 80 compute units. But here's the thing. I'm just going to cut to the chase and say that I came to the conclusion that there is at least a 7 and most likely an above 10% IPC increase between RDNA 1 and RDNA 2. And when you take that into account with the fact that there should be at least a 64 compute unit RDNA 2 card, so, you know, more than 50% more compute units than the 5700 XT with that higher IPC, and with, we should assume, at least the clock speeds of around the PS5, a console, yeah, it's about double the performance of the 5700 XT. But how many videos have I done on that? How many times have I analyzed different ways of coming to the conclusion that Navi 2X is 2X Navi 1. That's why AMD is marketing it as that in many slides right now. And in fact, I'm not going to waste too much time on that analysis because I received more Big Navi info on July 13th. If you can't tell, most of this video was actually recorded on July 12th, and it's been a nightmare to finish it with how much new information is coming out right now, every hour about Ampere and RDNA 2. But for me, this is the first time in about a year that I've received information about Big Navi that I believe is most likely legitimate and semi-detailed, actually new info. And I happen to know that WCCF Tech is receiving similar information at the moment as well. Now, this doesn't come from a random source of mine. This comes with somebody who's been right before several times. So, for whatever reason, I feel the need to say a grain of salt. Maybe just because I can't believe I finally know frickin' anything about Big Navi. It's been a black box, but, you know, I'm not going to do a fancy slide. I'm just going to cut straight to the info now. Now, when you look at this information, again, please don't take this as gospel. I will be doing more digging on this over the next couple weeks with a couple other sources, but, well, I just want to get it out there because I know other people are going to run with it as well, and some of it kind of lines up with what I expect. The first thing to address is that 427 millimeters squared. That is smaller than, well, I received information that it was a bit above 500 millimeters squared a year ago, but remember, that could have been early samples that they canceled based on an earlier 7nm node. If this is on N7P, I mean, considering the Xbox Series X is 360 millimeters squared with 56 compute units in the full die, 72 being about, you know, 20% bigger die size, except without the need to add all those cores and other things in the APU in a console, I think you can fit 72 in this die size on the latest 7nm nodes from TSMC. 384-bit makes sense to me as well. Game clock, boost clock, again, what it sounds like when I ask more questions from my source is that the typical game clock hits about 2.05 gigahertz, but it can sometimes hit 2.2 gigahertz, especially if you relieve some of the power limits, probably like what the PS5 is doing, and that right now, NVIDIA expects it to use roughly 300 watts and be about 50% better than the 2080 Ti. Still a black box when it comes to how the ray tracing performs, but I've covered that in other videos. And honestly, the most interesting part of this information is, I'm just going to admit it, it comes from within NVIDIA. This is the performance target NVIDIA is building the 3080 Ti and the 3090 to. This is what they're worried about. Could it all be smoke and mirrors? Corporate espionage from AMD? I don't know, but that type of performance is what NVIDIA is worried about. And some of you might say, well, then it's all BS, but I got to let you guys know that one of my NVIDIA sources is happy to see this. They're happy that AMD is able to compete. They don't care. They just build the best cards they can, and if AMD makes something better, cool. At least the people I talk to. And so here's my opinion on what's going on with RDNA 2, or really we should call it Navi 2X, because that name that Lisa Su announced, Navi 2X for RDNA 2, Navi 3X for RDNA 3, I believe that is what Lisa Su wants, right? No matter what it takes, Lisa Su wants RDNA 2, the top card, to double 5700 XT performance, and they'll do whatever it takes to get there. I believe there are multiple design teams within AMD that have seen mixed results, but at the end of the day, if it takes a 400 watt overclocked card to get the top Navi card to double 5700 XT performance, and therefore be competitive with top Ampere, that's what AMD wants right now, and that's what they're going to fight to deliver, at least with some limited run samples that they plan to sell to gamers. So that's why I'm running with this information. The one last thing that people may say about holding on to Turing is that there might be a new mining boom. Supposedly, NVIDIA is telling their AIBs that they should prepare and buy as much stock as possible because there will supposedly be a mining boom soon. But I'm going to be entirely honest with you guys. I'm not sure I see what NVIDIA is looking at here. I mean, if we look at Bitcoin, revenue has actually been slightly decreasing with Bitcoin recently. And in fact, its dominance overall in the past year has increased relative to the altcoin. Altcoins are the blockchains you mine with graphics cards, some of them, and they're losing value relative to Bitcoin over time. So this idea that either way, right? Let's say that Bitcoin doubles in price. It's still not going to be even remotely as profitable to mine with altcoins as it was in 2017. And speaking of 2017, let me remind you that the most profitable coins to mine right now are coins from 2017, Ethereum, Monero, and Zcash. So there's really no argument. Mining right now is a fraction of a fraction as profitable as it used to be, at least for altcoins. And at least over the past year, overall, Bitcoin's gaining more dominance. I don't see this big altcoin spike that's coming that's going to make people buy graphics cards for mining. I think that was 2017, and that was the game back then, but it's not the game now. All right, so let's try to wrap up this video that I've already told you has been a nightmare to finish. I mean, the whole time I was editing it on the 13th, I was just looking at my phone like, oh, there's more information. I better double check this to make sure I'm not wrong. And you know what? Surprisingly, the overall point of this video hasn't changed. The point was, how many ways could I analyze if you should sell Turing? Well, I think there's three main reasons you should. Number one, Ampere is going to crush it, whether by 30% or 60%. Even if it was just 30%, that means there will be $600 cards around the performance of your 2080 Ti with better ray tracing, better efficiency, and yeah, Turing's value is going to drop like a rock pretty soon, just based on that. And I don't think they're going to be able to raise prices with Ampere either. I think RDNA 2 is going to double 5700 XT performance, or at least crush the 2080 Ti. And so they will keep NVIDIA in check. And then thirdly, you know, I know NVIDIA is trying to get people to think there will be another mining boom, so you better all buy now, but I'm not seeing a mining boom coming that's even close to what happened in 2017 or even 2013. Could be wrong, but that's what I see. So everything points to not waiting, but if you care, depending on what games you're playing now relative to in the fall, you should probably sell Turing in a couple weeks. And in a couple weeks, remember, if Turing's been discontinued, that's when stock on high-end Turing is going to start to dry up on Newegg. And it's going to be right before all the big Ampere info comes out. So, yeah. Give it 1 to 2 weeks for the top cards to dry up a little and then sell if you care. If you don't care, then why are you listening? You're just going to buy the most expensive card when you need to and you don't really care. But a lot of people, I think, bought Turing thinking it would last them for many, many years. And it may have lasted you for 2, but if you can, you'll save a lot of money on an upgrade if you can sell it now. Well, that's going to just about do it for this video. I'll have many more coming out soon about, all of them, Intel Z, NVIDIA, Ampere, RDNA 2. The amount of info being thrown my way like a hail of bullets just won't end. And so, yeah, please subscribe to my channel, ring the bell button so you don't miss any of those. And of course, if you are enjoying these videos, please consider sharing them. We're still trying to grow over here at the Moore's Law is Dead team, and it really does help when you do that. And of course, if you really want to help the channel, consider supporting us on Patreon. You get access to a Discord of like-minded people. You get to submit questions and inquiries to the members of Moore's Law is Dead, and you get access to ad-free early versions of the podcasts every week, including mini podcasts that are exclusive to just patrons. So if you have the extra money, but only if you do, consider that. And as always, thank you for watching.